Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of on a Vanzig Planet. It's been a while since I made one of these videos, but I'm finally back. So if you do enjoy this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Yeah, I gotta do the YouTuber thing now because I gotta do the YouTuber thing. Anyhow, without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. So, for our first event, we'll be going down here to Izuna. Now, last episode, we saw them form, and in this episode, we're gonna see them expand a lot. Mainly, over here towards these mountains. They captured this lake, and then they're basically territorial claiming people, I don't know. They push up north and yeah, they just take over all of this land. Now, this is where Vizuna most likely should have stopped, but we're actually going to see them go ahead and take over all of these mountains, which makes them greatly unstable. And eventually, we see them basically having a breakaway over here. As we see in these mountainous areas, a new yellow country will basically begin to rebel as they encompass this whole mountain, and eventually their troops go over here and take over all of this area. Then they push down to this lake and to this other smaller lake, and yeah, by that point Vizuna is just cooked. And eventually, after this new country makes enough of an advance into Vizuna's core territory, we're actually going to see them have a peace treaty. So yeah, we see this new country by the name of Yugantarius gain independence, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Now, going over here from Vizuna and Yugantarius, we're going up here to Rasuni and Ragustu, where as you can see, they have divided this area of land. That's it. They basically just take over this area, making luck a lot better. Just nice. Anyhow, going over here to Yumpria, we're going to see their colony rebel. Yep, that's right. Now, this area really doesn't want to be part of Aprilia anymore, because before, when it was just like this coastal area, it was pretty good, but then this lake and the areas around it just began being, taken advantage of. People just took the resources and ran back to the capital, basically. So, the people here will rebel. We first see the rebellion starting over here in this major city, and this is the perfect time to introduce the road system. Now, you might be asking, what is the road system? Well, it's basically a mix of trade routes from Wexo and supply lines. So let's say Aprilia is fighting against these rebels. Basically what they have to do is send ships from the capital over here to get them supplies, and then they have to follow these roads to get towards the soldiers who are fighting here and give them supplies. And because of that, roads are really important. And this rebellion is going to show why. Now, first off, we see Yumpria managed to make a large pushback against this rebellion because, they're being supplied. However, we see this major city begin to rebel. And they follow these roads and even follow this one down south, taking over this major city, which, eventually leads to the supply lines being mostly cut to this area down here, which is basically encircled now. So yeah, we see the rebellion in this area get bigger and stronger, as well as this one in the east, and eventually this area, having a lot less supplies than they should, will surrender. Now, this is already a massive loss for Yumpria. However, it's only gonna get worse. We see this area rebel, And eventually, this whole area is encircled and taken over. And yeah, eventually, this whole colony just eventually gains independence. So that's it. There's no peace treaty, they just gain independence. Well, let me just change their color really quickly. So yeah, we see the nation of Albania get its independence. And with this, Turitsu cannot be more happy. Their biggest rival just got weakened. So they're going to go to Albania and basically propose to divide up this area. And Albania is gonna say, hell yeah, why not? So yeah, we see the two countries basically divide up the land like this. Okay, moving up here to Arsinu, we're gonna see them expand since it's been a while since they have done that. We basically see them continuing to expand down this river, and they eventually reach this mountain area, from which they eventually just settle down and take all of this land. Now, Sunni, seeing how close they are to connecting up, will also choose to expand. And yeah, Arsino will do the same, as we see the two of them basically get really close to connecting up. But then we see Izuni get involved. Now, this country has kind of been beaten around. There are former presidents trying to invade Krasuni, which went horribly, and then they got invaded by Orsino. So yeah, definitely not in the best positions, but they will take this area over, because yes. Now, if you look at the treaty, Orsino has some land that... Oh, right. I forgot. The treaty. So, with Sue and Huertas having joined the Diamond Alliance, we see the treaty basically being revised. As you can see, Paunita over here gets a lot of land from Aisalu, Ramiandu, and Bordercross, and so does Jasuni. Rosino basically stays unchanged. However, Zoo, what do I even say? This is gigantic. This is a colossal empire. Zoo is already number 2, and this is just insane. This would basically put them at like 50% of the strength of all the other nations. Like, it's kind of insane what they're claiming. And of course, most of Flanonia and these areas of Watercrass, it's kind of insane. Anyhow, down here in Vortes, we basically just see them claiming these areas. Yeah, that's about it. With the revised treaty, I don't know. Scram! Go away! Anyhow, Izuni, after expanding here, they spent a lot of money to expand here for no reason. And eventually, a large amount of people within Izuni will start calling for reform and, for independence. This area down here will call to join Izuni. As you can see, that area is just so happens to be claimed by them. But yeah, we see this area basically being sold over to Izuni, which is nice. Makes them look a lot nicer. Now, going over here to the two Simias, this area over here, despite being loyal in the previous episode, is now getting a lot less loyal because Simlia has initiated what they call the Golden Road Initiative. The Golden Road is basically a road that goes from West Simlia all the way over here to East Simlia. And it goes through these mountain areas, which the people who live here don't like. They don't want roads. They are happy with their mountains. They don't want these super high advanced technological roads and stuff. So we're actually going to see these areas ask for either for independence or for increased autonomy. And of course, with Simlia not wanting to give up, not wanting to give them independence, they will give them autonomy within the Sicilian Union. So yeah, we see this country gain independence, technically, because they are still part of the Sicilian Union, and they are a direct Sicilian puppet. Speaking of which, we will see East Simlia expand up north here, along with Zoo, who I will get to that in just a moment. And of course, we see Zoo expand, as I previously mentioned. Told you I'd get to it. Now, shifting our focus to West Simlia, we're gonna have them expanding north a lot, as they basically take over all of these areas and all of this lake, you know, looking pretty good. But then they choose to push their luck. They expand even further north, which is, kind of pushing it. And then they expand even more north, all the way to here. So yeah, kind of just too much. It's too much for Cilia to handle. So they will officially be making vassals out of these areas. So yeah, their first vassal is a pretty big one, and it's by far the most powerful and most independent. However, it's still a vassal, so the second vassal is over here along the coast. They just kind of wanted some autonomy, so they were made into a vassal. But the most surprising part is that this southern area will basically become its own nation. Yeah, it's still a vassal, but still, it's kind of getting independence. Okay, a minor color shift, but here we are. We have Senlia looking something like this. Now, as you can see, this area has a lot of vassals. And this is because Senlia is actively decentralizing. They were already pretty decentralized due to being basically Austria-Hungary, but now they have Vassal 1, Vassal 2, Vassal 3, and Vassal 3.0. I mean 3.5. It doesn't matter. 3 part 2. Yeah, I'm gonna stop. But this actually leads to more economical stuff, because you get a lot of money from the vassals. Yes. So, many nations will actually be shifting over to that system. Zhu being the first, as they will make a vassal in this area. Now this area really isn't important, other than the fact that they control trade routes, which make you money. So, making this into a vassal, pretty smart. Yeah, we also have this area up north being turned into a vassal, because it's not really that populated, basically. And plus it can serve as a buffer state between you and Waizalu, which, pretty important, I'd say. I'm gonna have this. Basically, it just takes a small chunk over across. Waizalu. This isn't canon, it's just like, I'm giving them some extra land. Because God, this looks awful. Anyhow, going back to Britannia for real this time, we're gonna see a nation hero form. They're basically going to expand over here and expand like so. And Magentia is there. And Magentia is going to send a very rude message to this country, which will make them pretty scared. So they're going to expand down south to Eugenterius, hoping that they will be more friendly. And from Eugenterius, they receive an even more threatening message. So yeah, this country is scared. Very scared. Basically, Magentia and Eugenterius both want this country dead. Now, why does Eugenterius want this country dead? Because they're very expansionist. And Magentia is also very expansionist, so potential allies. Of course, this country, seeing the fact that its two neighbors are basically wanted dead, is going to try and find an ally. Now, most of the world is very polarized and in alliances, so instead of joining a big one like Fort Cross Alliance, they're just gonna make a new one. That being the Triangle Alliance. Pretty cool if you ask me. Now, of course, first nation we have joining is Eugenia, who hates Magentia, so, pretty good. And we also have Rigusti joining, which is really nice. Yippee. And we have Magentia will basically go ahead and expand down here because they're seeing the writing on the wall. They know that the Triangle Alliance will invade them now, so why not just expand while you can, right? Okay, this looks ugly, so we're going to be dividing it up between all these nations. Warcross will be getting a small piece down here, but it's not significant nonetheless. This new country will be getting all of this. And Berlia will be getting the rest of it. So yeah, we do eventually see this area getting divided as well. Now, if you remember, all the way back at the beginning of the series, I said that Fortacross and Zoo were making money from this area, Britannia, using their waters to trade with areas like Turitsu or Libania or Sicilia. And, well, look who controls the coast of Britannia now. Yeah, Fortacross. So, making money is gonna be a lot harder for them, especially with the new really fast roads being made. I just want to stress that these roads they aren't medieval roads. No, they're like, I don't know, train tracks, kinda. Yeah, basically trains. Okay, not trains, but they have the speed of trains. I don't know. They're just really fast. That's all that matters. They're fast. They're fast. But yeah, with the invention of these roads, controlling them is going to be a lot more important economically. And, well, guess who really wants to control these roads? Imperius. Yes, indeed. So, they are going to do something interesting. They're gonna expand up north, like so, just a normal thing. Expanding up north, every country does it. And they're gonna take over all of this land. Okay, not all of that, Jesus. Okay, they're gonna take over all of this land. Yumpria will also join in and decide to take a piece of this. And well, would you look at that? Everything went accordingly for Eucantarius' plan. Now, what is Eucantarius' plan, you may be wondering? Well, it's invading Yumpria. Yup, a small nation that got independence this episode is gonna fight top 10 nation. Very stupid, but why not? Now, we do see them make a large advance up here and seize this road, which they really wanted. And, yep, they take all of this land over. So, yeah, this is where I'm actually going to pause the war. Yep, I'm going to be saving it for the next episode. For now, y'all are just gonna have to sit through and watch me update all these things. By all these things, I mean like the names of countries, major cities, alliances, roads, stuff like that. Now, first things first, this country will be called Marcotte, and their capital will be in this major city. Now, for the ideologies. Eucantarius is just a normal democracy, Marcotte is a right-leaning democracy, and Libania is a normal democracy as well. And now for stability. Marcotte is young stability, and so is Eucantarius. However, Libania is a full-on dark green stability. So yeah, really stable country. And yeah, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. See you next time!